here we are, wrapped up for, I think
Yeah,
it's been 9 months, right? 9 months we've been at this thing.
yeah, something like that.
So kind of the last gig, the last hurrah to kind of review what it is that we've done, learned, and kind of gone through the whole process.
Hmm.
So the first item that we talked about was kind of like in the beginning and how we engaged in ice breaking and getting to the bottom of it and so forth, and how we connected. I know that the two of us are running 1,000,000 miles an hour, so getting connected. That actually, you would think it would be an easier part, but it wasn't. We could text all day long, no problem, because it wasn't a long commitment. But to get that hour, it seemed like we could only connect on nights and weekends. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I would totally agree that to try having it structured in the beginning was kind of a challenge as we're both around 1,000,000 miles an hour, like you said. But over the course of time, it became organic where we just started texting each other and then like, hey, let's have a phone call and go from there. I mean, we went from having a structured conversation to all of a sudden we were on the phone for 2 hours BSing about whatever sports was going on at that point before COVID. But it was something.
Yeah, and I think we had a head start over some of the people because we had spent well over a week and a half together, solid, when we went out there to Extreme, and you would come out here with that group as well. And then I think you had been to the house, right, for
Yep.
a weekend. So I mean, there was a lot of conversations that we had. So we were kind of had a little bit of a kickstart to it. What I did like though is that we were poked. It was more of a structure so guys like you and I that are going 1,000,000 miles an hour, it made us make the time to pay attention to it. That's something that I think was good. At first, I wanted to wring somebody's neck, but once I got going, it was actually it was really good to have somebody kind of poking me to reach out.
Right. And especially once we got to that halfway point where, typically things start tipping off or you start losing that contact. Luckily, we had Christina that could come in there and be like, hey, we had this meeting set up. Here's what you two guys need to talk about. I mean, given our disc styles, we both just want to do, where we don't always have the time to sit down and read through the details and figure out what we got to do. So, I mean, at the halfway point, I was extremely happy and extremely motivated to keep doing this and refining my value system, all the things that you taught me, the mind mapping, stuff like that. So I would say, halfway through this thing, I was still really energized and ready to finish it up. I just really wish that Amerimold would have happened, but this will have to do until we see each other again.
We'll get more. And like I said, the last conversation that we had, we talked a little bit about books, but it was really COVID. We talked COVID, most of the time, and how you're the different generations as well as different sections of the country
Right.
were dealing with it. It was a great. I don't. That was a long conversation that we had about how everybody was dealing with the situation.
Like a 2.5 hour conversation, something like that. So
Yeah, it was. It was. You could bill me for that later.
yeah,
Uh,
well, we'll figure
yeah,
it
I
out.
got the same thing. At the midpoint, what I found is the more structure we were putting towards it, the more we got energetic towards trying to get something done and establish. Actually, the more we realized that work and personal life, our wants and needs we kind of found that they're pretty similar, whether you're 17 years old or 70 years old, and whether you're a machinist or a finance major. We kind of came to the conclusion that there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we both like to have a little fun, have a cocktail after work, and we like sports, all kinds of stuff. We have the similar disc personalities. We're both crazy, so that's always good.
Yeah, I think that helps too, because we could tease each other a little bit, understanding what was below the iceberg,
Mhm.
as far as getting to know, your wants and likes and dislikes. They assign more to your disc profile than your profession. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, to be able to see below the iceberg, like we talked about, is huge. I mean, I got to know your family, you got to know a little bit of mine, so that really helps out to figure out what that person might be going through or what they actually are going to respond to when you say something. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that below the iceberg is where I think we began to be a little bit more productive. And we started to see that, the way I am at work is actually a lot of the same things that I want at home.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think about the retrospect? You want to do this again potentially?
I would do it again. I like the term resource. Something that did come out of this is that as a company, we're no longer using mentor mentee. We're using the word resource.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I felt I would do it again if it's under the assumption that that person is we're going to become a resource for each other rather than guiding each other through life goals and trying to find out what we want to be when we grow up. Because I still don't know. I know I get out of bed and I'm here to service my customer and work as hard as I can, but to say, okay, this is where I want to be in my career type thing. It's I have a hard time thinking that I could guide you through that, not knowing enough about below the iceberg, some of the things that are important to you and your upbringing and so forth. But I think it was great. I think the structure was great. I really like the idea that we were challenged to come up with kind of, hey, what are we doing? And then the follow up rather than it just being a general conversation. How about you?
I would totally agree with you 100% on that. I mean, it's especially without having the structure, it helped us. But at the same time, we had to flex a little bit to our opposite personality styles and try being more structured where we just want to run. As far as this thing goes, I would be more than happy to do it again. I'd love to be able to help somebody out. I mean, you're a lot farther along in your career, obviously, but for me at my age, this was probably one of the best things I could have done because I got to gain a resource in you, and I can pitch some ideas off you and see how that works out from the ownership standpoint, and then teaching me the self-awareness stuff along with that. That's going to help me out short term and long term. So being able to have all these resources in you just by taking the 6 months to talk once a month, even though we talk way more than that, but being able to have that has helped me out tremendously for my career, my personal life, everything. And I can never repay that enough without being able to pay it forward and help somebody else down the road possibly.
Your perspective helped me tremendously on the side of servicing my internal customer of a younger age group. We like to stuff people into a certain pocket, an age demographic, race, male, female, whatever, right? But this exercise actually made me realize that that's not as big, that's not as important. What you did give me was when I'm talking about putting forth a benefit. Hey, what's important to your age group, etc. Should I go with a increase in the retirement plan or more time off, right?
Right.
You had mentioned and you reinforced what we had found internally. It was that it's not as much about the money. It's more about that time, which my generation and myself, me personally, it's all about, you just work like a dog and then you get some money for it, right? But you were able to give me that unbiased generational outlook. And when I say generational, you're 4 years, 5 years in your career?
Something like that.
Right, 5 years. I have people here that are 50, that are 5 years into their career. And believe it or not, it's a lot of the stuff that you were telling me. They also responded when I created that questionnaire for my internal customer, kind of fed back that. So having that resource is rare, and I greatly appreciated that. That's my biggest takeaway from this relationship.
Well, absolutely. Here to help always.